Okay, cool. So as you can see, we're going to do a wild card roundup, or for the sake of rhyming scheme, the wild card wound up, because that does look a little better. So obviously, yeah, we just had a wild card weekend, first weekend of knockout games. There were some really good ones, some competitive ones, some not competitive ones at all, but certainly lots to discuss across all the games. So I think we go through them in order. I'm just gonna cut to this screen now. So yeah, so the first thing I want to say is obviously we just said we did a side cast of the Raiders Bengals game, and so anybody who tuned into that, thank you so much. If you're tuning in again now, that was a really fun 4 hours of streaming. You know, lots of chat about food and sports and all sorts. So it was. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. The Raiders Bengals game, obviously, like we because we sidecasted it, I didn't know how much it would be worth getting into the sort of details of the game, because obviously people were there at the time. But we could, but I like, and that's just on mine. I've just got a couple of questions I want to ask you two. So if you guys want to talk, hey Sam, what's up, man? How's it going? Yeah, if you guys maybe want to chat about your perceptions of the game, and then I can throw these two questions. I can actually sort of break down what I think the Bengals and the Raiders should do.
I was just going to say, if there's any real two sort of main points that I was going to make, was Burrow's first playoff win and the Bengals' first win in the playoffs in 30 years.
So true.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
That's kind of says it all, I think, really. The kind of magnitude the game was for the fan base, and our friend AJ in Cincy and
AJW.
That was fun.
So yeah, I just think I'm really happy for, I'm happy for the Bengals fans. I'm happy for Joe Burrow. I'm just really happy for a franchise that probably deserves a bit of high times, because
yeah, certainly
they've gone through a lot. And it's not easy.
Any thoughts?
Similar vibes. It was really refreshing to see a different team kind of shake it up in the playoffs. I know it was against the Raiders, so not necessarily big fish, but I was really, really impressed with how disciplined the Bengals were. They drew one penalty the entire game. Something I wish were the same with the Cowboys, but it wasn't. And Joe Burrow wasn't flashy. He wasn't tearing the game apart. The Bengals were just efficient. They were very efficient, start to finish, and both on offense and defense, and they protected him. And that was clear to see, and that was good to see as well, because we hate seeing Joe Burrow get hurt.
Absolutely, and
inside the 5.
And in fairness, like I say, a good summation of that game would have been it was a matchup between the least penalized team in the league versus the most penalized team in the league, and for the most part, the penalties were the difference, in terms of what they did get away with and what they could pull off. Really,
I heard the Cowboys actually finished with the most a record-breaking number of regular season penalties. They had 127 in the season, but we'll get to that later.
Absolutely, yeah. So we obviously we side stream the game, so there's only so much we can ask about that. What I thought would be worth asking would be, obviously the Raiders went home, the Bengals are advancing through to the divisional round. So I've got a question for each team. Obviously, sort of thinking about the short term and what they need to do next to sort of help themselves where they're going. So let's start with the Raiders. What do the Raiders need to focus on this off season to improve? Because they did play really well, but there were certainly limitations I felt like that the team displayed in that game, either on coaching or in terms of personnel. So with the draft and free agency, what do you think is the best shout for them to sort of get stronger for next year?
Well, I think they need to start with a clear identity with whatever new coach comes in. The way that Rich Bisaccia apparently was writing handwritten letters to all the members of the Raiders team makes me think like he's not going to remain there. Just because that doesn't seem like the sort of thing you would do as a coach. He's staying at a franchise. Derek Carr's publicly backed him. But I don't know if that means the franchise will.
I feel like Derek Carr publicly backs anyone, didn't he? Like, actually, I'm not going to go.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna
no,
go.
I know
you're,
exactly what you're going to say.
you're right
I
though.
know
He
exactly.
did
He did.
he didn't back Gruden, but he sort of was like, all I've ever seen from him is X, Y, and Z, and tried to sort of at least provided like an alternative perception of John Gruden. So he's certainly very loyal to the people that he works with. I guess it's sad that despite Bisaccia being a record breaker in terms of no interim coach has ever taken a team to the playoffs before, he did get one and done. So going back to our topic we were discussing in one of the earlier shows, with will Rich Bisaccia be hired? It's like we weren't sure, and certainly in my mind it was like he's going to have to win at least one playoff game to do it. Do you know what I mean? Because it's sort of like, as much as no one's ever done the playoff thing, it's like it was bound to happen eventually, and to sort of be one and done like that. And it was, the Raiders had moments where they felt that they were in that game, but their offense had almost no answer to what the Bengals had schemed for them defensively. It did just feel like it was the Bengals were just in control of that game the whole way through, and there was a couple of moments where they nearly had a chance to get back in, but they didn't really. Do you know what I mean? So they definitely, that's got to be down to coaching at the end of the day.
I've just seen in the chat, Carr taking a lot of stick from Raiders fans. Is this his last game? I don't think necessarily one defeat. I don't know. I don't know. I think Carr is such a good player, and I think the team has taken a beating. Like they were up against it from midway through the season. They were like when everything started to hit the fan, as it were. Like they were up against it. So I actually like Derek Carr a lot. I think I think with the right scheming and the right, he's certainly got the arm, and I think he's got the knowledge as well. Like I feel like he's got the game, the awareness and stuff of being a good quarterback. So I don't think that's ever in doubt. But then Sam's saying in the chat as well that Burrow knew when to throw and when not to throw as well. So I guess it's
a good point. He kept the ball safe, Joe Burrow. He didn't.
Carr had the game ending pick. I remember that. Did he fumble it? He did, didn't he?
I'm having a look.
Yeah, he did.
He had one pick. He had one pick.
Did you remember the fumble in their own half, and the lineman took it to the house?
Yeah,
exactly. Yes. So actually, to be honest, that's that is true actually. So if I was,
we didn't take it to the house. Sorry, my bad.
But they put themselves at least in scoring range, and it's like if my opinion on what the Raiders definitely need to do is that based on what I saw in that game, actually, like. As it's all coming back to me, is like their defense actually kept them in it for a lot of that game. Like they had 2 or 3 goal line stops that forced a field goal and didn't give up a touchdown. So, their pass rush I thought was pretty good. Now, granted, the Bengals O-line will mislead some of that because certainly, despite how bad their O-line was, Joe Burrow didn't take a lot of sacks, but their defense managed to stop them when it counted and force 3 points, not touchdowns. So. Maybe it is. Maybe they should just prioritize the offense this year because I agree that I do think Carr's a great
100%.
quarterback, and he just needs better protection. Does he need a better receiving core? I guess he needs
a true replacement for Henry Ruggs. Like I don't think anyone they brought in mid-season really has filled that void yet. Henry Ruggs had more receiving yards than in his first 6 games, or before he obviously left the league, than Jalen Reagor has the entire season. As an example, they were both. So Jalen Reagor from the Eagles, has fewer yards this entire season than Henry Ruggs did in his first 5 or 6 games before he left the league.
Wow,
and I know that's one player, but it was it's not a small hole that Henry Ruggs left. So I definitely needs replacing, and there's good talent apparently in this year's draft. So maybe they'll prioritize O-line. Maybe they'll pick someone up in free agency. Who knows?
I didn't know there was good receivers in the draft this year. That's cool. That's actually
there's always a few like in the first round. I mean, maybe not as good as deep as last year. That was exceptional. No, the year before even. Sorry, that was exceptional.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So yeah, certainly they can solve their problems on O-line this year because it is. I'm right in thinking that this year's draft is a big O-line draft. If we're saying that Bisaccia probably isn't going to stay, and it seems like the narrative is he's not going to stay, let's circle back to the coaching thing. What coach who do we think fits? What do we think wants? You know, like it sounds like Brian Flores is moving to the Giants based on some recent news we heard. So you know,
yeah, there wasn't the rumor that he's trying to twin up with
Deshaun
Watson.
Watson.
Yeah,
like I mean,
to move to whatever franchise may be
all,
amenable to that.
All hearsay at the moment. You know, it's all based on the tweets of NFL insiders. But to sort of to take a tangent here for a quick second, apparently Brian Flores was the one that was actually lobbying for Deshaun Watson, and as Nima said, it's like him and Watson apparently are in constant contact to try and link up together at a franchise to start again, and apparently New York would be a good place for them to do that. Which, in fairness, as much as I don't support Watson being back in the league if the allegations against him are he gets convicted for those or whatever, but that would be a dangerous combination. Do you know what I mean? Because they are a quarterback and an O-line away from being a real threat. But anyway, so if we take Brian Flores off the table, let's assume that he goes there, and we've spoken about it a lot.
Dan said Nagy's pretty good.
I think the Raiders will be aiming at a little. Well, I mean, to be fair, he was coach of the year.
Former coach of the year. Always going to find a job somewhere, I assume. And I think that's a different. I don't think they'll go for Nagy personally, but
I don't know if Nagy will get another head coaching job. Just not straight away. Anyway, I think he'll go back to being like maybe an OC.
Yeah, that'd be good for him as well. But who would go to the Raiders?
Well, so
it's a really good question.
We've got Mike Zimmer who got fired. Brian Flores got fired.
Mike Zimmer's too beige, I think. I don't know if many teams are going to go for him.
I can't see Zimmer getting a big job.
Yeah,
you're saying go closer to the mic. Was that too quiet, Glenn? Yeah, I mean, Joe Judge potentially, but like.
Again, like he came straight from college, didn't he? And people were like, "Well, who the hell's this guy?" Like what's his pedigree? What's his background? And that no one really trusted that hire.
I think it's there's too many options, and you have no idea what that organization. The Raiders just seem like such a weird organization. Where I was surprised they even made it to the playoffs, to be honest, because of the controversy that happened with not only the player but the old coach, along with getting rid of their entire O-line last offseason, which was a great O-line as well. It's such a strange operation. I have no idea. They might go for someone you've never heard of.
Could go to college. To a college team, pick up a coordinator or a head coach from there.
Yeah, well, I was just about to say, I wonder who from college. I mean, obviously, I know is it John Harbaugh? I never remember which one is where. I know people are talking about him moving, but I wonder if there are any other college coaches that. You know how there's always one or two that no one talks about all season, and then it's one team will just randomly sign. I'd never heard of Matt LaFleur before Green Bay signed him. Do you know what I mean? It was just I was we're interviewing Matt LaFleur, and I was like, who? And then he just happened to come in. So perhaps the Raiders will maybe look into someone unproven or maybe unknown because But I guess is that what they need?
Yeah, I guess also there are some assistant head coaches as well that not necessarily coordinators, but people who are assisting in the NFL right now who could maybe
give us your thoughts in the chat.
Byron Leftwich at Tampa Bay, apparently there's been a bit of chat about him.
Oh, of course, yeah, they're
being a potential contender. Yeah, so coordinators obviously could make it, but obviously there's assistant head coaches as well, or even assistant coordinators have a shot, but I mean a smaller shot at making the jump to head coach.
Hutch, who is the Clemson coach? Because is it the same coach that coached Trevor Lawrence as well?
Dabo Swinney.
Yeah.
I'm not. Actually, on the top. This is the last point I want to make before we move on because we've managed to sort of talk about the Raiders for quite a bit. The coordinators and coaches who sort of everyone's talking about. So it's Brian Daboll, Byron Leftwich, Kellen Moore, Dan Quinn. Is it Nathaniel Hackett is the Packers OC, I think. So there's a few of them. So maybe, actually, to be honest, I hadn't thought about that. Maybe the Raiders will go and, sort of poach an OC, maybe one of those.
Any OC, DC is always going to be, going to be looked at for. Do you know what I mean? It's always going to be, you can never know who's going to be I'm going to go. There's obviously obvious candidates, but with the Raiders, I have no idea. I really don't know who because they went and signed John Gruden to a 10-year contract when they got him and brought him out of
Which is
retirement from
insane.
broadcasting, which is nuts.
Absolutely insane.
I didn't pay off.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right, well, yeah.
I mean, if the
Also-
Cowboys did that with Mike McCarthy, I'd be fuming. But
Well, yeah, also based on stuff we heard today. But anyway, we'll say that for Cowboy Coin. We have a dedicated segment to the Cowboys. What was
I won't sully the rest of the chat.
So the Raiders, we think they need to sort of maybe, to summarize, they need to improve their offense because their defense, I think, proved themselves in that playoff game, and we're interested to see what coaching direction they go in, because it sounds like the three of us have no idea. To flip that to the other side, so the Bengals get their first playoff win since 1991. I saw a meme that said that the last playoff win for the Bengals was in 1991. The first text that was ever sent was in 1992, which means that someone on Saturday texted about the Bengals winning a playoff game for the first time in mankind's history, which is very funny to think about. But
Congrats to the Bengals.
Yeah, a little clap for the Bengals there.
Yeah, let's go Bengals.
But on the subject of the Bengals, whilst Burrow certainly had a good game, and they obviously won that game, they're going to play the Titans next. And the Titans obviously were the number 1 seed. They were 6-2 against playoff teams. Much harder matchup. They're also going away from home now. They're going to go into Tennessee, into Nashville to play. Yeah. What do they need to do? What do they need to improve on from the game that they had to stand a chance of beating the Titans in the divisional round?
Stop the run.
Yeah.
The Titans have managed to run the ball even without Derrick Henry. So if he makes it back, I think the Bengals just need to really put their foot down and try and stop the run. I think they've been bad against the run throughout the season.
How well did they contain Josh Jacobs? Yeah, I mean, fairness, Josh Jacobs.
They had 76 total yards. The Raiders for rushing.
Are you sure? Because it says here Josh Jacobs rushed for 83 yards. He averaged 6.4 yards. He averaged 6.4 yards a carry, which is that is good. So
wait, is this playoff? Wait, I'm looking at the wrong Bengals Raiders game.
Yeah,
I'm looking at the wrong one. I'm looking at the one earlier in the season.
In fairness, the Bengals defense was, whilst it generated enough turnovers, Derek Carr threw for 300 yards. They had over 100 rushing yards on the ground. So the Bengals defense, the Raiders offense is obviously is all built around big plays, but I think Vrabel certainly is definitely, he's coach of the year candidate. And as you say, if they've got Derrick Henry on the ground, they've been able to generate the rush with or without him. They've got AJ Brown, they've got Julio Jones, much better receiving core, much better running game. I would say Carr is a better quarterback than Tannehill. I think if I was going to start a franchise and I had to pick between the two of them, I'd probably take Derek Carr. But Tannehill knows how to play in big games, so I'm not going to discount him. So it's like the Bengals defense certainly needs to do better. Oh yeah, interesting, Dan. So the Titans' losses include the Bears, the Texans, and the Jets. So was that earlier in the season? I know they lost to the Jets early on. And they lost to the Texans because I think they went down the stretch with quite a good wins to loss ratio. But yeah, so we think they need to stop the run. They certainly
and also their D line is down a player, Larry Ogunjobi. I hope I said that right. Is out. So Derrick Henry, even if he's a bit knocked up, coming back is going to have a bit of an easier time, especially if they ease him in the second half when the defense will be a bit more amenable to big runs. He gets most of his runs, or his big. He gets I think the stat was 40 out of 65 of his career touchdowns happened in the second half for Derrick Henry. So might be a good time to kind of bring him on and turn on the sort of afterburners as well.
So you said most of Derrick Henry's touchdowns come in the second half?
40 of his 65 career rushing touchdowns happened in the second half of a game.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So they had. I mean, I'm just checking now to see if they think he's going to be back.
I'm almost certain he's been practicing.
He's not been activated, but he's been. They're saying he'll play. The Titans.
Wouldn't that suggest that if the Bengals their best tactic is to try and build up a lead early,
put the game
so
away.
that running isn't an option in the second half.
Yep. And that's what happened to the Titans last season as well, where they had to try and chase.
Well, that's what happened
back from a deficit. Yeah,
that's what happened in the Bills Patriots game. The Bills were like, we're gonna just gun it at you and get so far ahead, or get enough of a lead where you'll put the game in the quarterback's arms, or where he has to throw it rather than put it in Tannehill's hands. And don't put it in Derrick Henry's hands.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I think so. Yeah, to summarize, we think the Bengals need to build a lead, take the game out of Derrick Henry's hands. Put the Titans in a position where they can't run it and rely on the run to win the game. And I love that you mentioned the Bills Patriots, because that is the next game we want to talk about.
Let's go.
Hi, thanks for checking out Inside the Five. We go live every Monday at 8 p.m. on Twitch. We also have an audio podcast that comes out every Sunday. Links to those are in the description below, or click here to watch more.